Round 9 of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport takes place in Shanghai. We've seen victory for Switzerland in the sprint race, and Switzerland starts on pole position for the longer feature race, and they could wrap up the title here today, but it may well still go to the final rounds at Brands Hatch in Kent in the UK on the 4th of May. We really are into the closing stages, the climax of the season, and a number of nations still looking for a victory, perhaps even their first ever victory in the case of Team USA. Starting up front, Jonathan Summerton on the front row of the grid alongside Switzerland.
Another team we must keep an eye on, a team that was very much to the fore in the sprint race. That's Team Portugal. They're directly behind Switzerland on the cleaner line in the run down to turn one. And of course, wasn't such a good start in the rolling start for Portugal. Standing start, I think, to be a little bit more confident coming from the team, and they will therefore try and just follow the Switzerland car into turn one.
Germany, Michael's Ammermüller starting from a little bit further down that. He's in 13th place for this one. Let's take a look, in fact, at how they do all line up as we get ready for the start. So it is Switzerland on pole position, but the United States alongside this time, and a big opportunity this for Jonathan Summerton on a circuit on which he has always gone well. Managed to have an accident towards the end of the feature race last year, which denied him a good points haul, but he's up there on the front row. Then it's Portugal and Ireland. Watch out for Ireland. Remember how fast their stops were in Mexico, where they won last time? Well, he starts 4th again, does Adam Carroll. India and Malaysia then next up. Then New Zealand and Great Britain. South Africa and France together on row 5. Row 6, it's Italy and Canada. Row 7, Germany and the Czech Republic. Australia back on the next row with Pakistan, and on row 9, Brazil and the Netherlands. Row 10, Lebanon and China, and at the back we've got Indonesia and Mexico. So that's how the 22 nations are all set to start this feature race in Shanghai. The grid beginning to clear now as we're into the final countdown towards the start of this race, and an all-important race it is in terms of those points. As I say, 31 points now separating Switzerland from New Zealand. They're not the only two nations that could still win the title though. France and Great Britain mathematically could still do it, but of course they would need something pretty disastrous to happen to Switzerland and New Zealand. But who knows what will happen. It still might go all the way to the final two races at Brands Hatch. Everybody looking forward to that. It is going to be a real fantastic festival of action on May the 4th. No matter what happens here, no matter what the point situation is, it is tremendous to see the A1 cars there at Brands. But right now, Team Switzerland looking for 2 out of 2. We've had a lot of different winners this year so far, 9 to be exact. 9 different nations have taken victory. Very different story to what we've seen in A1GP in the past, when France dominated the season 1, Germany with Nico Hülkenberg dominating season 2. Well, Neel Jani for Switzerland here certainly hasn't dominated season 3, but he's been up there all the time, consistently finishing on the podium, scoring victories, and perhaps more importantly, he's been the only driver in that Swiss car throughout the whole year, and that continuity absolutely vital in terms of scoring points every time out. Right, we're into the final stages now of the build-up to the feature race.
先生们，为了国家的荣誉，发动你们的引擎。Gentlemen, for the right of listen, start your engine.
And there we go, engines are fired up. Those Zytec V8 engines which have performed so superbly in the back of these A1 cars for nearly 3 full seasons, where here they're being pushed hard down that long straight that makes up a good portion of this circuit, where they're travelling at speeds of 170 miles an hour, 280 kilometres per hour, where there's 19 tons of load on each of the 8 pistons in that engine. It's amazing how they stand up to it, John.
Yes, it is, and that's only revving to 9,000 RPM. Imagine if you doubled it, what it would be like, but 9,000 is the limit, and only with power boost you get that extra 250 to 300 revs. It gives you another 30 brake horsepower. You've got 8 shots of power boost for the feature race. Most will use it at the start and the run down into turn 1.
South Africa looks as though the car's ready. They've got the tyre blankets on, so they will be sending him down to the end of the pit lane, I'm sure, once all the cars have set off on the formation lap, and away they go. Let's just make sure they're clean away. Our vantage point looks down towards the back part of the grid. I'm looking down yet. The last couple of cars have moved away. Final car is Mexico.
Yeah, Malaysia were a little bit slow moving off, and Robbie Kerr had to dive around the back of that car, but that was just Alex Yoong taking his time. He doesn't need to do anything too much to practice. He's done this so many times. The most starting driver, I think, is the best way to describe Alex Yoong of Team Malaysia. And Adrian Zaugg sits impassively. I mean, this is the worst situation for a driver at the start of a race. You know that you're going to have to start from the pit lane, and really your chances have been diminished so much.
31 points between Switzerland and New Zealand, and then, as you can see, a fairly small gap in the battle for third place between France and Great Britain. 11-point gap there, 10 points further down. Then Netherlands in on 80 points. They've just been passed by Germany as a result of the sprint race here today, and all the way down through the field there are little private battles going on. Malaysia now suddenly with a chance of getting past Mexico. Unlikely to get past USA today because USA are on target to score a decent haul of points. 15 to the winner, 12 points to second, remember, 10 points to third, paying down to 1 point for 10th position. And there's the all-important prize money. $100,000 was won by Team Switzerland for the first race. There are $200,000 on offer for the winner of this one. The second pit stop window is now known. It's going to be between lap 24 and lap 32.
Yeah, so you've got a reasonable run all the way between that first pit stop, assuming that you come in early, all the way to lap 24. So Max Velti looking slightly tense, I have to say, as the cars come round in this formation lap before they take up their grid positions. Obviously he would love to wrap up the title here for Switzerland and not have to go to Brands Hatch, because Brands Hatch is a much less predictable venue in terms of weather and a different track, the whole factor of doing it under pressure as opposed to trying to wrap it up here. And the advantage that Switzerland have got over the rest of the field is pretty clear for all to see, including the 21 other cars that are running behind Switzerland right now.
Well, yes, let's see what happens though. We had a drama off the start here, didn't we, in the sprint race? And we've still got to get them all through that first corner. They've done pretty well here. It's interestingly, at the previous meetings in Shanghai, we've had different winners for each of the races. Malaysia won the very first race here, then the Czech Republic won the first feature race, and then last year we had a victory for Great Britain in the sprint race.
Narain, Karthikeyan, what are you doing? I mean, he nearly lost the car completely, and then he had another go at trying to prove he could do the same thing all over again.
Trying to prove it wasn't really a mistake, yeah.
No, absolutely. That was as he was pointing towards the grass, and in fact had to get the front wheel across the grass to get the car back straightened up.
Interesting that South Africa have actually decided to not send him out. I think they could have joined the back of the grid. They probably decided to leave the tyre blankets on and get a bit more temperature in the tyre before sending him down to the end of the pit lane. So tyre temperature is obviously important, and for Narain Karthikeyan, he got a bit carried away trying to get tyre temperature, but he's managed to get the car on the grid, and here comes South Africa now heading towards the pit lane exit.
So he'll go down to the end of the pit lane, sit there until the entire field passes the end of the pit lane, then he will be allowed to join the racetrack. The one benefit is that he will not get involved should there be an incident in turn one, and inevitably there will be one form or other of contact.
Big gap in front of Team Italy where South Africa should be, so that gives Edoardo Piscopo a little bit of a run heading down towards the first corner. There is that gap in the middle of the shot. Mexico, last car to move into position, so it looks as though we're all set to go here. Watch that starting gantry. Watch out for those red lights to come on. Who's going to make the break here? Lights go out, away we go, and it's a good start from both front row men. Here comes USA though. Jonathan Summerton certainly going to go on the attack, and Ireland trying to squeeze from the inside. It's USA with an easy run into the first corner. India up into third position there. Good start from Karthikeyan. Portugal struggling again off the line a little bit and has dropped at least one, if not two places.
Yeah, they tried to muscle Ireland out of a position, and that meant that really both of them were affected. Malaysia now slides up alongside Ireland. So from 6th place in the grid, Alex Yoong, he has to drop back as they go through this turn 5, 6 and 7, and then the run up into the long turn 8. Jonny Reid directly behind Malaysia in that the yellow car.
Well, he's gone a lot further than he did in the first race as Jonny Reid riding on board the Black Beauty. He's now in 7th place behind Malaysia. Behind him is Great Britain with Robbie Kerr at the wheel, and he's going to be charging hard. France there as well, and remember, Great Britain and France are battling one another in the points. Czech Republic, Filipe Salaquarda moving out of line. He's defending from Germany.
I think one of the cars that may have been Germany ran wide. They go side by side at turn 11, but Germany's had to fall back into line. But somebody got wide on the exit of turn 10, kicked him to the dust. That's why the Czech Republic suddenly leapt to the left by about 10 feet.
So Germany losing out big time on this opening lap by the looks of things now. Who's on the power boost? USA's on the power boost, leading the race. USA on the power boost down towards the hairpin.
Ireland haven't used any either, Switzerland haven't used any, but really all Neel Jani has to do is shadow that USA car. Here they all come, look, 3 abreast, coming down under braking, and was Pakistan going to slide under Australia as Brazil tries to go around the outside of Pakistan.
Yeah, that was well behaved. I have to say they've all done a really good job coming down to that hairpin on the first lap in both races. It's USA that leads, Switzerland in second place, India in a strong third position, Portugal in fourth, Ireland in fifth, then Malaysia and New Zealand. There is the battle between India, the blue and white car, and the Portuguese car, the red, green and white machine of Filipe, who finished third earlier on today and wants another podium finish, but at the moment he's dropped down to fourth, and he's got Carroll in that Rapid Ireland car right behind him as well.
So things just slowly beginning to settle down. We've got the USA leading, and that's a half a second gap over Switzerland. Switzerland not concerned at all by the fact that the USA is leading. We know that the USA car was damaged, it should be fine, but of course the right hand of Jonathan Summerton might be okay right now, but at the end of 38 laps, maybe throbbing.
Canada not able to gain many places on the first lap, started 12th, now in 11th, although that doesn't really mean they've gained anything because South Africa wasn't on the grid. Somebody kicking up the dust there. South Africa is in the race now, by the way. At the back of the field, you'll see South Africa has caught up to the back of the field, but now the hard bit begins because Adrian Zaugg is going to have to try and battle his way through from the back there. On board with Team Ireland. This is the lead onto the main straight.
Yes, following in the wake of the Portugal car, just half a second or so ahead. Too far back to really catch him any meaningful slipstream, but once of course Portugal it's on the break, that gap will foreshorten. Once we get to the exit of the corner, it'll open back up. Italy defending from Canada. Robbie Wickens dives down the inside, makes the pass, did he hit the back of the France car? Over around the corner, and Edoardo comes back and regains the slot. He lost, that was last scoring points place, 10th place.
Intelligent driving from both there. Piscopo gave him space, realising he was on the way through anyway, but Wickens overcommitted, just about managed to make the corner. Italy reclaimed the spot. Good stuff from those guys. 10th for Italy, 11th for Canada. Canada on the charge again, but not able to nip past on the approach to turn 1, which is very, very fast on the entry. Pakistan trying to do likewise.
Yeah, but it's difficult. Once you get that late into turn 1, you've got to be very, very careful not to overcommit and then run into the car ahead of you.
So let's take a look at that start once again. Portugal cut across early, but it seemed to go a little bit wrong for them after that.
Now watch Portugal forcing Ireland to back out of it. The grass was up. So here we go. Poorish start from Neel Jani. USA get the advantage. Ireland trying to come out behind. Portugal again has to back off, and it's India who find the slot, but also the yellow car, the Malaysia car of Yoong, side by side going through turn 2, and then the drop into turn 3.
Absolutely. Well, I think also, just taking another look at this from Team Ireland's point of view, he tried to go right here. Look, he was running out of space because the grass is coming up, had to back out of it and tuck in behind.
Well, I mean, there's nothing unfair about that. That's what you get at the start of a race, just finding track position. Unfortunately, the grass comes back out into that as the exit of the pit lane, and everybody falls into line, and it was a clean first corner.
Yeah, it was a very good first corner. The leaders are USA and Switzerland at the moment, with India holding on to third. Switzerland, I'm sure, capable of going more quickly, but got to try and get past USA. Canada again having a little think about passing Italy, but not close enough, followed by the Czech Republic and Germany. Australia, then Brazil. Here's China trying to gain some ground, nips down the inside of Mexico, and that's up for 19th place. And Indonesia and the Netherlands, I think they swapped around last time, so Netherlands up to 17th position now, but not where they should be at all. They've been struggling with their car all weekend.
Portugal beginning to threaten India. India taking the wider line into turn 1, the tighter line for Portugal. That's a question of preference, a question of how your car is set up. Whether there's any difference in performance between India and Portugal, I think it's a pretty close match. This is going to be a good race to watch. Ireland tagging onto the tail of the Portuguese car, and should these two get together and have a few little tears, it'll be Ireland will be a beneficiary.
Yeah, Carroll will be trying to watch this and see if there are any opportunities presenting themselves. We're on board with Adam. Winner last time out in Mexico. That superb feature race victory. Good run through here.
He's going to get a good run. He might look to have a slot down the inside into turn 11. He's not. Portugal is not going to get it up easy. He has a look down the inside, not close enough. But there's the threat. While Portugal's focused and lasered onto the back of the India car, Carroll's watching both cars and will try and make one or both of them at some point work for him.
Flashing across the curb cam there on the exit of turn 13 and onto the main straight. They achieved their maximum speed pretty early down this straight. and then they're just going to sit and wait and see if there's anybody in their mirrors before getting on the brakes down into turn 14. It's the United States still leading the early stages of the feature race. India's the one to watch, under pressure from Portugal, Ireland and Malaysia and New Zealand joining in.
Yeah, there's 5 cars all having this battle for 3rd place. And currently of the 5 cars, Ireland is the one that looks like he might be in the position to try and do something, catch Portugal unawares as Portugal's focusing on the India car, with now Malaysia coming under pressure from Jonny Reid, the title challenger to Switzerland in the New Zealand car.
So that's one to watch, yes. Jonny Reid, there he is, tucked in behind Alex Yoong. These two have had 1 or 2 little contretemps, 1 or 2 comings together, not recently, because Malaysia showing much better pace here this weekend than we've seen from them for a while. Former winners at this Shanghai circuit, but Alex Yoong hitting his form once again just towards the end of the year, and Jonny Reid now is going to find it pretty tough to get past that yellow car with Alex Yoong, the most experienced A1 driver out there. He's going to make it as wide as possible.
Well, 1 year ago Jonny Reid was winning a race and he took second in the other event, so he has got, if you like, a bit of a sweetheart relationship with Shanghai circuit, but he needs to find the track position, particularly somewhere out of the exit of turn 13. If he can get close to Alex Yoong, he will have an opportunity, but of course Yoong, the most experienced driver, will not, under any circumstances, give Jonny Reid any slack.
Great Britain running in 8th place, then France, their big rivals, in 9th place. France currently holding on to 3rd in the points. Franck Montagny will probably be relatively happy to shadow Great Britain. Fastest lap from USA, but look at Switzerland shadowing every movement that Jonathan Summerton makes, and Summerton's not able to get away at this stage. Switzerland potentially, I think, could go a little quicker even than Team USA, but they're not in clear air. These two, though, are escaping from the likes of India and Portugal.
Portugal right on the gearbox of India coming out of turn 14 as Switzerland runs the curve on the exit of turn 16. Now watch for Portugal, they're going to have a little sniff down the inside into turn 1. The gap, well, it's what, 3 car lengths, not close enough to make a serious attempt to pass, but at least it keeps the pressure on India. Keep your car in the mirror of the Indian car.
5 laps completed. Remember, when we get to lap 8, the pit lane will open up for the first round of pit stops, but we're a few laps away yet.
Franck Montagny in the French car giving Robbie Kerr in the British car a hard time. We haven't seen France really to the fore since Loic Duval was a winner for that team. And now Franck Montagny really coming to terms with A1GP, having been here Friday, Saturday and now Sunday.
That's right, first race was this morning in an A1GP car. He seems to be getting to grips with it pretty quickly. Narain Karthikeyan, well, we know that he can deliver the results. Race winner in China earlier on in this season, that was back in December, and now he's got to fight for his position. He's in 3rd at the moment from Portugal, Team Ireland and then Malaysia. Now let's listen in to a little bit of the radio at Team Switzerland.
If he pits, we stay out. If he pits, we stay out.
Well, that's a pretty good strategy. If he picks, we stay out, says James Robinson over the radio. That's his engineer calling the strategy to Neel Jani.
Yes, I mean, what he will do is, if a USA comes in at the end of lap 8, he will then, for the first time, have clear air. Portugal gets alongside India, down into turn 14. That is an excellent pass. That's how you should pass in motor racing, and doesn't give India the chance to come back. That's been on the cards. Now Portugal has made it happen. It'll be Ireland next to put pressure on the India car. But watch Filipe Albuquerque, really one of the talents, the young talents that's come in at the end of Series 3.
Thumbs up, clinical manoeuvre that was from Filipe Albuquerque, and just talk us through it, John. It was well timed, wasn't it?
Perfect. That he got the slipstream out of turn 13, got under the rear wing. I have to say, in fairness and good sportsmanship, Narain Karthikeyan did not attempt to block, which is sometimes what you see other drivers, particularly young or fresh drivers, in a race series to do. The sportsmanship from Narain Karthikeyan, he gave up that place. It's a clean, fair, well executed overtake.
So Albuquerque has got himself and Portugal up into 3rd position, riding on board with Adam Carroll. The question is, can Team Ireland now do the same? Maybe Karthikeyan's car not working so well on the longer run. Maybe the tyres are going off more quickly. Wait to find out what happens. We're on board with Adam Carroll.
Of course, cars carrying a great deal more fuel than they did in the sprint race. That does a bearing on how a car handles. Sometimes a car works well on the heavy fuel load. Other times it prefers the fuel loads to dissipate. And right now it would appear that Ireland equally have got more pace than India at this point in the race. And again, watch for Ireland to try and emulate what we saw Portugal 1 lap ago do.
On board with Jonny Reid briefly, could see how hard he's trying, but he's not able to get past Alex Yoong. But he's also being patient. He knows that the pit stops could affect things. Ireland on the power boost, yes, looking for the opportunity perhaps to have a go at Team India. He's closed right up this time. Karthikeyan covers the inside. That's intelligent driving, but Carroll can't make it round the outside unless he can cut back now on the exit.
Well, he's going to get alongside, but he's not going to get ahead as with a bit of debris in the track as they come up to turn 16. He'll have to yield, but he may get the slightly better exit as Karthikeyan runs wide over the curb. And again, right under the rear wing, power boost from Ireland, pulls one way then the other way, right down by the side of the pit wall, gets alongside and takes the corner away from India as they go on to lap 8.
Great stuff from Carroll, and he puts Ireland up into 4th place, gets past Team India. India just struggling a little bit at this phase of the race. 7 laps have been completed. Pit window will open soon, but Ireland are on the move, up the order once more. They're into 4th place. It's USA continuing to lead from Switzerland. This is how Ireland got past.
Well, he was having a little move one way then the other way, but the right way was down the right hand side, get the corner, take it away from India. And again, there was a more fight from India to Narain Karthikeyan. With Ireland in the past, they made it easy for Portugal. And let's look and see now as we get, that's the switch back that occurred on the way in, but the extra speed on the exit of turn 16 gave Ireland the chance. Here's the block one way, then switch back the other way, very close to the pit wall. The guys with the pit boards are saying, whoops, bring those back in.
Mark Kershaw pumping the air with that one, delighted to see that he got past, and that puts Ireland up into 4th. So Portugal, there you are, in 3rd, Ireland chasing in 4th, and the pit window about to open up at the end of this lap, and we'll see who comes into the pits first. It usually is an advantage to come in early, unless you're in a situation like Switzerland here, where they could potentially lap more quickly than USA if they had some clean air.
The question is, if the USA chooses not to come in, will Switzerland dive in at the last moment? Because they're not going to know if the USA is going to come in, other than by maybe getting a look into the pit window or into the pit garage of the USA car.
8 laps completed. Next time around, we'll see people starting to come in, I'm sure. But at the moment, they've got to complete one more lap of this Shanghai circuit. India now then in 5th place and dropping back a little bit, although staying a reasonable gap back to Malaysia and New Zealand. And then behind New Zealand, remember, it's still Great Britain and France. That's the battle for 10th, still between Edoardo of Italy in the blue car and Team Canada's red and white machine, driven by Rob Wickens. Close into turn 1 and 2, not close enough to get past.
Canada started 12th, or up to 11th. Team USA is going to come in at the end of lap 8, so anticipate that Switzerland will stay out, and this is the opportunity for Switzerland to get in maybe 1-2 extra laps in clear air. Currently they're lapping in the 1:37 1s and 2s, and I suspect that once Switzerland gets clear of the USA car, he can get a couple of laps that would clip into the 1:36s, and he might make up an effect on the road, maybe a second or a second and a half before he would make his pit stop, and that of course a valuable cushion when it comes to that pit stop.
No surprise to see India getting ready, because definitely they've lost a little bit of performance over the last lap or two. It might be something they could fix with a new set of tyres and just minutely adjusting the tyre pressures. So they want to get India in quickly and see if he can't fight his way back into a podium finishing position. Down in 5th place at the moment. Here is New Zealand, 7th position for Jonny Reid. He's got to play the patient game a little bit, but he also knows he needs to go chasing after Switzerland if he's to keep this championship alive. Now, who's coming in? USA comes in, and indeed Switzerland stays out as we expected.
So last lap for Switzerland was a 1:37.1. Let's wait one more lap. India likewise into the pit, as is Malaysia and New Zealand. So four of the cars in 5th, 6th and 7th all make their way in. Also got Robbie Kerr for Great Britain coming in as well. So all the way down to 9th place. Stop for the USA. Team come out, cars go on, the jacks go onto the car.
So vital stop this for a number of teams. Great Britain in, but France not in. So an opportunity for Great Britain to escape the clutches. Out goes Team USA, keep it clean. That's good, neat, tidy exit. Watch for the overall pit time. Look at the camera we've got right over the New Zealand pit. What a crucial pit stop this could be for Team New Zealand to get them right in the hunt. We've seen them do it before. They're one of the fastest teams. India on the way, and New Zealand get out ahead of India, out ahead of Malaysia, out ahead of Great Britain. That's another fantastic stop by the New Zealand crew. It's not as, it is fractionally quicker than USA, as you can see. That was a crucial stop. Problems though down at, was that Indonesia or Canada?
It was Canada.
Canada, yeah, I think it was Canada. So that's a real shame for Rob Wickens. They can't get that left rear sorted.
And they're having struggle, and no, there's the wheel will not locate on the dials. Robbie Wickens is sitting there waiting for that wheel. He's got a mirror on that so he knows what's going on. So have another go. The wheel will not locate onto the dials. They've now got it, but the time lost the best part of a minute overall. as we now see a fastest sector time in Sector 1 for Switzerland. Still have not recorded a fastest sector in Sector 2. That's gone to Ireland, who've got that fastest sector time. To Switzerland, we wait for them to come across the line to see whether he can improve on the fastest lap that he's had so far.
Portugal in, so Portugal in a lap later, and Ireland in as well. Now, they will be under threat perhaps from New Zealand. That's going to be interesting depending on where they come out and how quick they were on that lap. But Switzerland, as you say, also into the pit, so we've got to see the race leader in, and they'll be comparing themselves against USA and see everybody coming back out. So the boys go to work. Limited number of people allowed to work on the car in A1GP. They have to stay in the garage until the car is stopped. Good stop by Portugal, that looked pretty effective.
And Switzerland's running as well. Ireland has got the car off the jacks and it's coming out behind the Portuguese car. So nothing gained or lost other than we've got Ireland behind Portugal and Switzerland in the pit lane.
With USA, I think, look, USA's going to stay in front. Switzerland rejoins and USA stays in front. That's a surprise, but USA have maintained the advantage, and Jonathan Summerton continues to lead this race into the second stint. That will give them some real confidence.
Identical stop for both Switzerland and Ireland, 37.2. USA did a 37.8, but that was a very good outlap for Jonathan in the Team USA car, because he must have used the tyres at their limit, because he was fractionally slower than the Swiss team were in the pit stop, but he still managed to retain the lead. So Jonathan Summerton, great pit stop, and a great job for USA, and a great outlap for Summerton.
Good stop by New Zealand as well, because they managed to gain a couple of places in those stops. They managed to get past Malaysia and India as a result of their quick stops, and now you see the Black Beauty in the background. Team Ireland there ahead of them, but then it's New Zealand, and then further back it's India and Malaysia, and then Team France and Great Britain. Now
that's a change. That's a change. France got in and out ahead of Great Britain, so Robbie Kerr has lost position in that pit stop. So good job by France, getting their man back out, find the position in the pit lane. Always better to do it in the pit lane than have to struggle to do it on the racetrack.
Absolutely, good stuff by them, and Team GBR will be disappointed, there's no doubt about it. They'll be kicking themselves that they've lost a place there, particularly to big rivals France. They won't like that very much. Behind them, Italy next on the road, and here comes Malaysia. Ooh, little look down the inside.
No, and India could see that coming, but France now threatening Malaysia. As Malaysia's focused on India, you've got France, Franck Montagny, first race for Team France, and looking to maybe make a little bit of progress. He's directly behind the Malaysia car. Malaysia slides the car over the curb at the exit of turn 16, and France getting slowly but into the zone of a possible overtake.
Interesting that South Africa left it fairly late to come in, and also leading the race at the moment is Germany. They have really played a gamble here. They have not come in yet, so we've got a few nations that have decided to leave it late. Brand new set of tyres on the South African car. Where's he going to come back out? That's the question.
He's not going to quite get ahead of China, and as Canada swoops around, no, it's not Netherlands, so South Africa got the advantage over the Netherlands, and Jeroen Bleekemolen will not be happy that the South African cars got split. The two that are battling with China, the car he was focusing on, and now it's Adrian Zaugg who's got the opportunity to put a bit of heat on China.
Yeah, these guys, the other cars all around him have already stopped, so he's got himself right in the middle of the pack, as you say there. China running in 19th position, and Frankie Cheng not making that first lap cutting through some of the opposition as he did in the sprint race, but still a possibility. He set past his lap in recent events. Let's see if he can do it again here. So there are the leaders with them about to catch the Lebanese car. It's USA ahead of Switzerland.
USA in one lap earlier than Switzerland. They got tyres were fresher, so first flying lap on a new set of tyres is new fastest race lap of 1:36.447. That goes to the USA, and they will be happy with that. But Neel, Jani, again, it's going to be a waiting race. All he has to do is run in the wing, under the wing of that USA car. If there's a situation where he can make a clean pass but jeopardising himself, well, that will come, but he's not going to make it unless he's 100% certain.
So I say leaders, but in fact we're still waiting for everybody to complete their pit stops. There's Germany, who've made a pretty late pit stop in this race. It looks as though it's clean. It means that Brazil is currently leading the race, and that car up ahead of USA. Lebanon actually hasn't made their pit stop yet, so they are effectively battling for position rather than coming up to lap them.
Point of interest for all those fans of Duncan Tappy. He's here as the rookie driver for Team GBR. He also happened to be the front jack man on that Team GBR pit stop, and I'm certain the reason why France got an advantage over Britain had nothing to do with Duncan Tappy on the jack.
No, I know he was pretty nervous about it, but it certainly wasn't ideal, but that's the way it was this weekend, and Duncan been practicing with the team throughout. riding on board here with Team France, and Franck Montagny having a little look down the inside, but not really going to overtake there.
No, there's no chance to overtake going into turn 9, but certainly on the exit of 10, and you can see just how much power he was using, letting the back of the car slide wayward. So up into turn 11, you can do it, but you've got to be right on the rear wing of a car coming out of turn 10, and Franck Montagny was close, but not close enough.
So let's see if he can get close enough where it can count, because this is coming onto the long straight, building up the speed here up to 280 kilometers per hour, just under, nearly 170 miles an hour. Let's listen in again to Team Switzerland on the radio. What's been going on there?
Gear is gone. Drive without second, drive without second.
Oh, that is significant.
Work your way around it, work your way around it.
That is very significant. He said gear is gone. He has no second gear.
No, and that's a problem, because he needs second gear in at least 2 of the corners around this racetrack. In this area now, you need to use second gear. The only thing that will save him is the V8, the engine that we use, this A1GP engine built by Czech, has got a lot of torque, and you can run the engine very low on the RPM and it will still pick up, and you can see how much the gap has opened up, particularly with the Lebanese car now between the leading USA car and Switzerland. He's losing that little bit of initial pickup, and he needs to get out of a corner. But this is coming up, this is a battle for position on the track. It's not a lap on the Lebanon car, they've yet to make their pit stop, so Lebanon has got no requirement to get out of the way of Switzerland at this point of the event.
Looks as though he's trying to find his way past, but Jimmy Albi's not going to let him through easily here, driving for Lebanon, and Portugal's going to close up here. There's a big opportunity for Portugal to close up to the back of Switzerland if it carries on like this, and without that second gear he's going to struggle off this corner, because he's up through all the gears here, but he's not too far back as they come onto the straight.
He ought to be able to get up under the rear wing of the Lebanon car. He's getting alongside, so what you lose at this part of the racetrack, as Switzerland is on power boost, is not really critical. It's going to be in the corners, for example, coming out of turns 2 and turn 3, where second gear is mandatory, and also down at the hairpin here. But as I mentioned, the torque of the engine, as James Robinson said, adapt.
Problem there.
Coming out.
Well, he tried to change, you could see it there, his head jerked when it didn't change up, and suddenly the Lebanese car caught him right again. So whether he went to first gear, then got nothing, and then up to third, I don't know, but it certainly hurt him.
It certainly, well, I wouldn't try to use first gear, because if second gear isn't operating, then you're going to have to make a double change to go from first to third. And I would just, as the team are saying in pit, will adapt to the situation. If you're going to use third gear, live with it. Don't try to go down to first gear, because you may end up finding yourself without any gear.
Lebanon still hasn't stopped, so they've got 2 more laps in which to do that. Vote Switzerland on the side of the car. Let me just tell you quickly what that's about. It's for the fans to get involved. Vote for your favourite nation at A1GP.com, because there's a special award to the nation that gets the most votes at the website. And don't forget to vote for Driver of the Day. Jani won Driver of the Day last time out for his performance in Mexico. A1GP.com is the place to vote for your nation and for your driver.
Well, they've got this pitch on the graphic on the list what Portugal gets now past Lebanon, but just looking at the first pitch, they can tell precisely what's going on for Neel Jani, and they may well have to, in a way, talk him through this part of the race. We're into 14, we're on the 15th lap, 24 to go. So it's still a long way for Neel Jani to baby the car without that crucial second gear.
USA going quickly, a fastest lap last time around, and it's certainly helping Jonathan Summerton to ease away at the moment. And without that second gear, it's got to hurt Neel Jani, but so far so good. He's still lapping pretty quickly. This is where it might hurt him. Right on board, let's listen.
He's using first gear, then he's double putting into third gear. Now, that's a risk, I always feel, if you can't select second gear to do so. But if the team are giving him the advice and saying it's okay to do it, then go ahead and do it. But of course it means that the acceleration is momentarily stalled out as you have to go through 2 gears to get drive.
So tough call this for Neel Jani. He's got to completely adapt his driving style, and the worry without second gear is what is rattling around in there that means it's broken. New Zealand coming through in 5th place, Lebanon into the pits at last, so that means India into 6th.
Germany and Great Britain, a battle for position, and this is for 10th place. Germany and Great Britain always get locked together somewhere on a racetrack. And Robbie Kerr slides it. Does that offer a chance down the inside? Not enough room, but indicative of where Great Britain have been all weekend. They've never got this car to really work.
No, they've been struggling, and Michael Ammermüller definitely much closer here. These guys are fighting their way over what at the moment is 10th, but it'll be a little bit better than that once we've seen Lebanon make their pit stop. It'll be 9th place, other cars around them. Everyone else has stopped. They've still got France up ahead. They're chasing Malaysia. Not much of a gap between this group of cars. All of them battling for each point that they can find. And there's no doubt that Germany, potentially quicker than Great Britain, but can he find the space? Last of the late breakers is Robbie Kerr. It's going to be tough to pass him.
Yeah, just at the head of that little group is India, and you can see, we saw a moment ago, just how much the car is sliding around as we look back onto the pit wall with Team Germany. Michael Ammermüller knows he's got the lap time potential. He's got to find the opportunity to get advantage of it. And bits of rubber flying off as Robbie Kerr peels off one of those tear-offs on his visor to give him clearer vision. Well, the vision he needs is not necessarily ahead of him, it's what's going on behind with Germany under attack.
Malaysia attacking India, and Malaysia down the inside. Can he hold the line, or will Narain Karthikeyan cut back? Well, he's got it, he's done it, and that's a great move by Alex Yoong.
And that's the subject of the oversteer that India's been struggling with. We've noticed it around the track, especially in turn 9. He's not had the speed off the corner, and a good run from Alex Yoong. We've got a drive-through penalty, by the way, for Team Lebanon, but there again, a well-executed pass. India tries to cut back and get up the inside, but Malaysia had that situation covered. Here's an on-board with Malaysia.
Yeah, he just judges the moment to perfection, gets late on the brakes, just manages to squeeze past. Narain Karthikeyan gave him just enough room, and that puts Malaysia in 6th now.
In fact, India, I think, just had to turn away marginally to avoid contact, because that was a missile coming down the inside, painted yellow with Malaysia all over it.
That's right, he was coming through no matter what. Lebanon's penalty is apparently for speeding in the pit lane. So Jimmy Albie has picked up a pit lane speeding limit penalty, and he'll have to come through for a drive-through. Just quickly run through the order now that everybody has made their first stop. It is USA leading, wide there from India, and that's put him under more pressure again from France. Here comes Montagny having a little look. Switzerland are still 2nd, Portugal 3rd, Ireland 4th, New Zealand 5th. Then it's now Malaysia, and the rest of this group, India, France, Great Britain and Germany. That's your top 10. Outside the top 10 is Italy, Czech Republic, Australia, then Brazil, China, the South Africa, Pakistan, Netherlands down in 18th, Indonesia 19th, then Lebanon and Canada way down after that slow stop.
Watch Germany, they're lining up Great Britain as they come down the straight. India on power boost, France on power boost. Wait to see if, well, Germany not quite able to do it. Robbie Kerr thinks he might have seen an opportunity. These 3 cars, India, France and Great Britain, got very close indeed into turn 14.
And that cost Robbie on the exit of the corner. This is going to put him under pressure from Germany. Where's Germany? Not quite there. I thought he might be able to get alongside on the approach to the left-hander, but it doesn't happen. He's still got a run going though.
Yeah, but Germany had the better line and exit through the corner. Robbie Kerr compromises entry into the corner. Now Germany under the rear wing, comes up, gets on the left-hand side. Wrong side of the track for Germany to make the pass. And once again, Great Britain defend Germany.
So into turn 1, 2, and then down into turn 3. And still Robbie Kerr's able to protect his position from Team Germany all the way around that long first part of this lap, first corner. Very tough, but Robbie Kerr managing to protect that position.
But the car, you can see just how much the car is sliding. There's not a lot of grip left in that Britain car, but Robbie Kerr has determined he's not going to give up 9th place to Germany. He wants 2 points, not 1 point. In the meantime, the gap is now over 5 seconds. Jonathan Summerton consolidating the mechanical problem that Switzerland has in 2nd place, and is pulling away basically by through 0.3 of a second a lap.
So down towards the hairpin, Switzerland still in 2nd place, then Portugal in 3rd, and that's where more of the battle is, because Switzerland, as we know, is going to be struggling at this area of the track in particular. If Portugal can identify that and try and take advantage of it, could be a chance here for Filipe Albuquerque to move them up into 2nd place. See how he closed up a bit there, but the rest of the lap, Neel is doing a fantastic job of maintaining the pace.
Yes, I suspect now Portugal is aware that the problem that Switzerland have got. Jani will be really considering, I want to finish this race on the podium, whether it's 2nd, as he is currently, or 3rd. And I suspect when Filipe Albuquerque gets close enough to offer up an attack, there's not going to be a lot of resistance from Switzerland. It is most important for Switzerland to guarantee the most possible points that they can. 10 for 3rd, 12 for 2nd, and where New Zealand are running right now, well, they're running in 5th place. Whether that statistically is enough to get the job done here for Switzerland and tie up the World Series Cup, that is another matter.
So 18 laps have been completed. There are still 20 to go with just under half distance. But there's still lots of positions that could change, and this problem for Team Switzerland, the loss of 2nd gear, surely that's going to hurt them. We'll just have to wait and see. Adapting well at the moment, staying ahead of Portugal, but the gap just 0.4 of a second, and right behind them as well, Team Ireland looking for that opportunity to perhaps make the most of a quick pit stop on the 2nd round of stops. We're a little way away from that yet. some 6 laps remaining before we get into the second round of pit stops. And Luis Vicente there of the Portuguese team, the seat holder for the team, waiting to see whether Filipe Albuquerque is going to be able to take advantage and move into second place in the remainder of this race. Play it patiently, there's time here, they don't have to rush it, they've got the time. Switzerland may still have more problems with that gearbox. And don't forget New Zealand, don't discount New Zealand in the background, still running in 5th place.
Well, they're just sort of catching our breath as this little flurry of battle goes on over second place. Filipe Albuquerque getting nearer and nearer, and every lap shadows the Switzerland car. Gets under the rear wing now. The acceleration off turn 16 has gone to Portugal. Switzerland moves to the left to block, and Portugal wisely decides not to make an issue out of it, because once the car is running and gets into 3rd gear, then the acceleration, the difference between the 2 cars levels out. But it's that initial run off turn 16 that's sort of favouring the Portuguese car right now.
It is, but how much longer can Switzerland keep them behind without the use of second gear? These, as you said earlier on, John, these engines are very torquey motors, lots of power at the bottom end of the rev range, but he's going to need it all, isn't he, to stay ahead of a car that's exactly the same, but with everything working presumably as it should do. Portugal taking a slightly different line there and lost a bit of momentum there. He actually ran a bit wide, and that's cost him a little bit of time, and just for a moment Neel Jani's got a bit more breathing space.
Not as much time as it's going to cost Lebanon. They've got a 10-second stop-go penalty for whatever their offences are in the pit lane.
Behind these guys, still New Zealand trying to close the gap, and that was a good lap last time around. He was about 3 to 4 tenths quicker than the cars ahead of him was Jonny Reid, so he could indeed join into this group. There he is, just coming into the background. Adam Carroll waiting, biding his time perhaps a little bit. He'd like to close up to the back of the Portugal-Switzerland battle, but it's not happening for him just yet. And here we are, down to that hairpin again, that crucial area where the Swiss car's in trouble.
Ireland and Portugal are running at almost identical lap times. They're both lapping fractionally quicker than the Swiss car, but the question of getting up under the rear wing again, coming up to turn 16 is the acceleration out of 14 that allows Portugal to get right up to the back of the Swiss car, again onto the straight, and again the defence coming from Switzerland this time going to the right, and no attack coming from Portugal, not close enough. It's going to happen maybe somewhere else around the racetrack, because by the time they get onto the pit straight, Neel Jani is able to recover for Switzerland and consolidate second place.
Well, he's certainly finding that he's having to use 3rd gear perhaps in a couple of areas where he hasn't done before. One of the key ones might be up after this next little sequence of corners. Using 3rd, I should think, probably all right through here.
Yeah,
but what about the next one, where they come up to the end of the next straight and into that left-hander?
Turn 11 is definitely 2nd gear. It's not, in my opinion, 1st gear, but if you take 1st gear, it's just simply to allow you to get the engine to pick up, and then you're going to have to do that double click to go from 1st to 3rd. It's not something a driver needs to do. It's going to be preying on his mind all the way through the remaining 18 laps of this race.
Yeah, that's the sequence we're talking about up to turn 11. Well, they've still got some confidence there at Team Switzerland, but there is concern. You can see it all over their faces, and he slithers and slides his way up onto the straight, and actually he's had a pretty good lap this time.
Yes, I mean, again, it's a question of adapting. What a driver sometimes gets polarised on is that if I lose a gear, suddenly my lap times are going to go to pot. The reality is, if you learn to drive the car with what the gears that you've got remaining in the gearbox, overall your lap time should not be a huge amount slower. It's just that you have to adapt, and it's maybe a little bit more work for you.
Yeah, he is having to work harder, there's no doubt, having to protect his position more. So Malaysia in 6th place now, on a rather lonely 6th, back to India in 7th. France still applying the pressure in 8th, then Great Britain and Germany. These two have been tied together for a little while now, but there's no change between Robbie Kerr in the British car and Michael Ammermüller in the German machine there, right tucked in behind him. And of course, Ammermüller desperately trying to move up the order, score some more points. Behind them we've still got Italy and the Czech Republic, Brazil in 13th, Australia 14th. China have moved up a little bit to 15th now, ahead of South Africa and Pakistan, but the Netherlands are still languishing down in 18th.
What's happened to Germany is they've been trapped by the pace of Great Britain, and the only thing that you can do is drop back a little bit and try and pick up your own momentum and try and do it at a part of the racetrack where you might think the Great Britain car is most vulnerable. And I think the car is most vulnerable in this section of the track. We've noticed Robbie Kerr and the Team GBR car sliding a lot, but of course nowhere here to make the pass. The only opportunity would come on the exit of the next, not these two corners, this is turn 8 and into turn 9 and 10, but then up from the run out of 10 up into turn 11. There's an opportunity there, but you've got to put yourself nearer to that GBR car if you hope to make any opportunities work.
We're 3 laps away from the second round of pit stops beginning, at least. It doesn't mean everybody will be in 3 laps time, but that's when they are allowed to come back into the pits, and that will be decisive, particularly amongst these guys that are so close together on track. Any time gained by their boys in the pit lane could be the difference between several points in the championship. USA, though, up front at the moment, and with that problem for Switzerland, the gap between USA and Switzerland up to 8 seconds, just over 8 seconds, and that's comfortable, and it also means that there's no one else really likely to threaten them right at this stage.
No, I mean, they're running at 136.4, the rest of the field running in the 137s, 3s, 2s, whichever. Portugal just into the 36s again. Going to go on board with Adrian. Adrian looks to the back of the Portugal car. Adrian's last lap was less than 1,000th of a second away from Portugal, and they're being really, their momentum is being lost as they all have to sort of file up behind the back of the Swiss car.
Let's ride on board with Adam Carroll. You're watching the gear shift in the bottom right hand corner of that display. You can see he's through in 3rd gear through that little sequence of corners. This is a quick right hander. In 4th gear, just changes down on the way through, picks it back up again. Now, does he use 2nd down here? No, yes he does.
I mean, you don't need to use 2nd. It just depends on the choice of ratios that you have. I mean, everybody will have their own personal choice. Some want to use a slightly longer gear because they like the way the engine pulls you out of the corner. Some want the shorter gear to get the drive off the corner. This
is the 2nd gear corner we were talking about, where he may also be having a little bit of a problem, Neel Jani, but through there quite smoothly is Adam Carroll. Again, you can see they have to wait to get on the power through that long right-hander onto the straight. Wait, and then floor it. And now he's at maximum throttle, and that engine working hard.
And Portugal is using power boost. He just wants to make sure that the Ireland car doesn't get the opportunity to sneak up behind and catch Portugal unawares, particularly when you're focusing on one car ahead of you, which you know is running on not quite all 6 gears.
That's right, and they were trying to close up in the area where they know Switzerland's going to be weak, but it didn't really work for Portugal there. Didn't get as close as sometimes. Out of the final turn, across the line to complete 23 laps now for these guys. Next time around it'll be lap 24, and after that the pit lane will reopen once again. Team Ireland looking for at least another podium finish, perhaps even another victory to be able to back up the win they had in Mexico last time out. But this is the one to watch. Switzerland versus Portugal for 2nd place. Now let's just listen in to what's been going on the radio again on the Swiss car.
Right, dude, try and speed up, otherwise lose 4 places in next stop.
Well, that's a, he says, James is telling him, try and speed up, otherwise we might lose 4 places in the next stop. And that, of course, is a worry, because they'll be changing up through the gearbox on the acceleration out of the pits, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the response from Neel Jani when you get the message, the hurry-up message from the pit lane. And I'm sure that Neel Jani is doing all that he can as USA is preparing. 15 laps to go, we're on lap 24, and the pit lane opens up on lap 24 at the end of this lap. We should see possibly the USA filing, and that's why the message was being sent out over the airways to Neel Jani.
Look how close Great Britain and Germany are, for that matter India and France as well, so we could see some major changes going on in the final round of pit stops when they get underway. It's going to be tough down there in the pit lane. Pressure on the United States. They have never won a round of A1GP. This is their biggest ever opportunity, but they've got to get the 2nd pit stop right. They're not under huge pressure, so they can afford to perhaps just take a little extra time, and they could be on their way to an historic 1st win, but there's a little way to go before that happens.
Well, a little bit of fun and games in prospect. We see USA now bringing the wheels and tyres to the front of the garage. They can't bring them onto the pit lane until that car comes to a standstill, but Lebanon let some cars go through, and then there's the field behind that are all going to get trapped behind the 11 car unless they also choose to come in at the end of this lap.
He's doing the job here, John, because he's just set fastest lap again. Perfect timing. Try and get your quickest laps in before the pit stop.
And unusually for Jonathan Summerton, he's not dirt tracking the car around the racetrack. He's got a car that he's very comfortable in. Again, another fastest race lap on lap 24. The lap we participate, he's going to come in 1 minute 36.280.
The pit window is open. They can stop whenever they like now, and surely we're going to see the United States in. They're all ready to go. They have to stand behind the line in the pit garage until the car has stopped in front of them. And at the moment, Switzerland is still doing a mighty job of holding on to 2nd place, but will that still be the situation after their pit stop? They don't look quite as ready. I don't think Switzerland's coming in just yet.
Well, they didn't come in at the same lap as USA came in the first time around. whether they decide to wait an extra lap. I don't know what the gauge would be, but Portugal certainly looking to get in as early as possible. I don't know why they would feel there's any advantage to wait, other than they just think that maybe a bit of clear air and a little bit less pressure might help as USA comes in for the second and final time of the afternoon.
United States, Jonathan Summerton into the pits. Crucial pit stop coming up. They're not under big pressure, but they've got to get this right. And if they do get it right, they could be on their way to their first ever win. They could become our 10th winner of the season, but wait and see what happens. They've got to have a clean stop. Remember what happened to Canada? They're down in 20th place after a miserable stop earlier when one of the wheels wouldn't go on.
So the USA are the only of the top 6 that have made it in to the pits. The wheels go on. Unfortunately, it is back. Portugal did come in behind, so good stop for the USA. Get the car running, and that ought to be enough, all things being equal, to keep the USA in the lead. Portugal drops the car off the jacks as well, and Albuquerque gets the car, wheels spinning, India in, and it is Germany following them into the pit lane.
So crucial stops, as I say, and Switzerland didn't choose to come in at that point. 38.4 seconds for the United States. India in here. Let's see what they can do, trying to reclaim some ground. They've got a new set of tyres on the car. Get him going, and on his way he is, but he's still behind Malaysia, who have already stopped up at the top end of the pit lane there. Both cars heading down on the pit lane speed limiter, and the gap between them has remained pretty consistent. So USA 38.4, good stop by Portugal, 37.2. India just about in between those two nations, and Germany on the way back out. So Germany versus Great Britain. We won't know the outcome of that until Great Britain make their stop maybe next time around. So there's Switzerland, they stayed out, and that's the danger they're under, with Ireland and New Zealand not far back.
And interestingly, since the USA went into the pits, the last lap for Switzerland, Ireland and New Zealand have all dropped into the 1:36 they were running in the low 1:37s, but Switzerland will be coming in at the end of this lap, because here they are in the pit lane. Ireland runs behind. So these two nations have gotten close to, and New Zealand following in as well.
Look at him, New Zealand, Jonny Reid was grass tracking it around that final corner. They had a wheel on the grass sideways, pretty impressive. But remember, New Zealand had a pretty good stop first time around. They managed to gain 2 places in a similar situation to this. So let's see if the boys can do that again. Switzerland down to their mark, Ireland ready to go, and Ireland one of the best pit stoppers in the business, as we saw in Mexico last time. How fast can these guys be? Ireland ready, oh yes.
The rear jack slow and coming out, but they got the car rolling.
They're ahead of Switzerland.
Ahead of Switzerland. Switzerland, the right rear is not working, so Switzerland loses a place to Ireland in the pit lane. New Zealand tries to get out, but they're going to dive in front. New Zealand's dived in front and taken another 2 places drop from Switzerland, coming in second, going out in effect in fourth.
That was close, but New Zealand just able to get in front of the Swiss car, and suddenly the championship is not so certain, because Switzerland will have to fight for the Brands Hatch if it stays this way. Great Britain now, remember they were battling with Germany. Where's Germany? In the background you'll see Germany just coming down the main straight. Great Britain now beginning to pick up the throttle, and he stays in front of Michael Ammermüller. That worked well this time for GBR. They had a good pit stop this time. They stay ahead of Germany.
The rest of the field makes their way out, so until we get this 3 things cycled, it will be, well, just looking down to see, it will be USA in the lead, because we're still 1 lap behind on the timing and scoring, but in effect it is the USA leading, and they're the team that have been the dominant team. Fastest lap of the race still to Jonathan Summerton, but the loss of 2 places in the pit lane to Ireland and to New Zealand for Switzerland will be a bitter, bitter pill.
There is Jonathan Summerton, things going well. There's our actual race leader, it's France, because Franck Montagny has not yet been in the pits. I would imagine we'll see him in perhaps this next time around. Portugal's been setting a quick split time a moment ago, and there is Portugal. So Portugal will effectively now be in 2nd position. 3rd will be Ireland now, and then looking further back, that means New Zealand will be in 4th.
Yes, indeed, and it's 5th place. We see Canada come up and make an overtake. That's one of the slower cars, so Canada will be hoping to get into the mix as well. France still take the lead, but USA is effective as a consequence of that pit stop.
Yeah, Canada not really, I'm afraid, a factor in this race anymore after that horrible stop. France are in now, so that means that all of the lead teams have been into the pits. Looks like a scrubbed set of tyres on the French car, and away goes Franck Montagny.
Fastest lap, and a cracking lap at that one, 35.3 to Portugal. Portugal on that new set of tyres almost matched the time of Team USA. In fact, it exceeded the time of Team USA, and Ireland waiting for their first lap to come up to the cycle as well. So Portugal on the charge and running to hunt down the USA.
Yeah, but there's a 7.5 second gap between USA and Portugal, so it's a big, big margin that Portugal has to make up, and there's not a huge huge amount of time, 11 laps in which to do it, and you can see France back out ahead of Great Britain there. So France just about maintaining their position that they gained in the first round of pit stops.
Well, the only thing one might ask is, what is the condition of Jonathan Summerton's right hand? He got a nasty crack on that hand in the incident in the sprint race. Normally adrenaline covers all those bases. He shouldn't have a problem. There's the Portuguese car just coming onto the main straight. The gap going across the line. The last time was 7.5 seconds. And, 7.5 seconds into 11 lap ordinarily wouldn't go. No,
he'd have to be doing something pretty amazing. Unless, of course, Summerton has a problem. Switzerland's still in the race. They're still running in 6th place, despite the 5th place, in fact it is, despite the problem with the gearbox that we learnt about, and also a slightly slower stop last time around, beaten by both Ireland and New Zealand. And you have to say, Switzerland have not been as strong on the pit stops in terms of speed of pit stops as some of the other nations throughout the season, but what they haven't had there, they certainly have had on track. They've been out-qualified, certainly on an average basis, just about all the other nations. But at the moment, Switzerland behind New Zealand, and New Zealand can keep the championship alive, keep it going to Brands Hatch if it stays like this.
Well, a smile on the face of the team, Germany on the pit wall. Sears runs the car. There's the New Zealand car. They're also in charge of that on the engineering side. And Switzerland down in that 5th place and 1.5 seconds away, and probably no prospect of getting a 4th place for Switzerland, running without a second gear. The compromise has been set in, but really it was all about that second pit stop with the right rear not being able to be fitted cleanly and quickly, and that gave New Zealand and Ireland the opportunity to leapfrog once again in the pit lane.
Well, we've got a bit more team radio from Switzerland. Let's see what the latest is, what they've been talking about.
Come on, dude, learn how to drive it, learn how to drive it. Michael Schumacher won a race with only 5th gear. Come on, dude.
Well, James is certainly putting him in under pressure, isn't he, today?
I thought of that when we got that first radio message that the great Michael Schumacher won many races very complete. I don't think he did it just with 5th gear, but certainly he managed to do it without a top gear, and he managed to blag the entire field, including the 1996 world champion Damon Hill, that he could still run lap times, and nobody sussed that he had lost the key gear for that circuit on that particular occasion.
Well, Switzerland down in 5th place now, so that would mean they're going to add some 6 points to their tally, a little bit different to what we were expecting, and New Zealand would add some 8 points to theirs. The gap would be 30 points, which means it's pretty good for Switzerland going to Brands Hatch, but it means also that they would not wrap it up here.
No, and I think it would be great if we could. Not great for Switzerland or Neel, but it would be great to have once again the championship being decided in the final round. It's going to be at Brands Hatch, 4th of May. And that will be a special day for me at Brands Hatch in particular.
Indeed, John. It's your birthday, isn't it?
Well, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking, let the British fans see A1GP for a 3rd time. Let them appreciate and realise what great motor racing A1GP is.
Well, USA, I think that's the story of today at the moment. Team USA potentially going to win this one, and well, that really would be something. After all the trials and tribulations the team has been through in the 3 years, they've had some good results, and they've dropped back down to the rear of the grid. They've stuck with Jonathan Summerton this year, and I think that's been the key in many ways. The guy is a real talent. They've given him the time in the car. They haven't been chopping and changing, and Jonathan has just been developing and growing in stature as a racing driver over the last few events.
Well, Frankie Chang for China would love to be in the position of Jonathan Summerton here in his home race, but it doesn't always work like that. It works like that, as the advertisement says.
Well, this is, Frankie. He's done a reasonable job today, but he was never really going to be in the hunt, having qualified poorly. They had a problem with the car. It evidenced itself up at this corner in qualifying, when basically he couldn't get the thing slowed down, and unfortunately he hasn't really been able to make up as much ground as he'd like. He's behind Australia in the battle for 15th.
It's interesting, on the top of the steering wheel you're seeing a 1:36.41. That actually is his lap time. You can alter on the steering wheel the information that you get, so he's looking at not engine revs. He can run up to the limiter, he'll use that. He's getting information about lap time. That's what Frankie Chang, I believe, thinks is key to his race.
Yeah, that's right, but it's not enough at the moment. Fastest lap in this race at the moment to Team Portugal, so the extra point would go the way of Filipe Albuquerque, who's heading for his personal best result, a 2nd place finish for Filipe Albuquerque, to back up the 2 third places he's already had, and he would match Portugal's best ever result, 2nd place in Australia in season 1 for Alvaro Perrin. But still a few laps to go. 8 laps remaining here in Shanghai, as Frankie Chang does his bit to keep the fans interested and engaged in what's going on here. He's caught up to the back of John Martin in the Australian car, so you never know, might be a challenge in the remaining laps.
Yes, there could be a challenge coming from China. I'm sure that Karthikeyan will try and do absolutely everything he can to be in 15th place when the Czech flag falls rather than in 16th place. And of course the fans from China and Shanghai and all over this nation, they've come here to watch their hero race. Clearly disappointed he wasn't starting at the front, but he is fighting, and that's what they expect.
Yep, that's what he's doing. He's pushing on hard, and there's still going to be Brands Hatch. He knows the Brands Hatch circuit very well from several years racing in the UK, and I would think that there's a really strong chance of him being top 6, maybe even another podium, as we saw earlier on in the year for Team China. It'll be tough for Brands, but he'll be up for it, and there we are. Just holding a slightly tighter line than Australia. Different variety of lines can work up at that corner. We're just looking for some clear air coming onto the straight. Just ahead of them as well is Brazil. Negrão making his debut in the Brazilian team, although it's likely we're going to see the youngster, the rookie, Filipe in the car at Brands Hatch next time out. Only just 17 years old, but he's going to be given a big opportunity to drive one of the most dramatic circuits on the calendar.
Oh yes, and what an eye-opener it will be for Brazil when they get to Brands Hatch. The lead at the front is extended. USA's opened that up now to 8.5 seconds. So the reality is Canada back in the pits again. But the reality is that Portugal has opted to go for 12 points in second place. And the pressure from behind from Ireland, that's eased away as well as now 3.7 seconds. New Zealand a further 4 seconds behind Ireland. So the top 4 really pretty much 16 seconds separating those cars. And they're looking now to the checkered flag. And that's going to be their work done for the day.
Yeah, this group is one of the closest groups on circuit at the moment, so keeping an eye on Australia versus China. John Martin versus Franck. And John Martin, who's just had a bit of a tough couple of events. He's doing a lot of driving at the moment, in both A1 and in F3, and switching from one car and then the other, travelling around the world. So he's a busy boy, a little wide there, didn't quite clip his apex as closely as he would have liked. Karthikeyan will have seen that little chink in his armour and think, well, maybe there's still a chance for me here. But there's our race leader. 6 laps remain for Jonathan Summerton to write his name in the history books and take the first win for the United States. Still got to do it though. And there's Portugal in second. The gap, 8.6 seconds. No real threat coming from Portugal. Behind them, Team Ireland haven't been able to stay with the pace of Portugal, but they're still on for a solid podium finish. And then it's New Zealand and Switzerland. These two rival nations battling over the title. It did look for a while as though Switzerland might wrap up the title here today, but if it stays like this, they certainly won't.
Well, I mean, the consensus in the pit lane was really it's a shoe-in for Switzerland to tie up this championship, but that's what happens. There's nothing that you could on the outside for Lebanon into turn 1, and Jimmy Albee gets it back onto the racetrack. No damage done, but just a little flutter of the heart. And there you see the reverse view of that situation. But again, going back to Switzerland, everybody thought the Swiss car, the pace that they have, that Neel, Jani, his confidence, take nothing for granted. He even said that when he was interviewed. Overconfidence is never a good thing going into a race where anything, lots of things in a race car can go wrong.
Jonathan Summerton driving absolutely beautifully so far. No hints of a mistake. And the guys down there on the pit wall, can they quite believe what's happening here? Little clip on the curb on the inside there. He's still pushing, as you can see, a bit of a slide there. Remember, he's carrying that injury in his hand, which was all strapped up earlier as a result of the accident between himself and New Zealand in the sprint race.
I'll tell you what, assuming he goes on to win this race, when I see him in the gear for the post-race interviews, I'm going to give that hand a really good squeeze. And if he yelps, I hope you get it on camera, because he'll be happy to yelp. If he can win this race, he doesn't care. The pain, it'll vanish tonight.
Well, he's also about to celebrate his 20th birthday. That's coming up in just over a week's time, so that would be one good birthday present if he could take the victory. 20 years old, he's heading for the United States' first win. He comes from the delightfully named Kissimmee in Florida, although his parents actually originate from the north of England.
Yeah, from Lancashire, just outside Blackpool. So he's a real, say, Lancashire lad, but he speaks with a very archetypical Floridian, and he's just come back from holiday with spring break in Florida, so he was in good shape to come to this race and try to. There's the face of Team New Zealand, and Colin Giltrap disappointed that his driver, his nation, were not able to, particularly from the disappointment of the sprint race, offer a greater challenge to Switzerland to make the opportunity to take the title away from the Swiss team more balanced, I think is the best I can say.
Let's watch the onboard telemetry here. He's having to use third gear at most places where he would sometimes change down to second, and he's had to readapt his driving style. I think actually this has been a great drive by Neel, Jani. and despite all the urging on from, or perhaps because of it, from his race engineer, he's driven very well and on target to still score very useful points.
There you can see as he goes through turn 11 and then turn 12 and 13 in third gear, really little choice. But if you're gentle on the throttle, if you don't slam it open, let the engine pick up and pull the car out of the corner, you will actually, at the end of the day, make not a huge amount of difference. Top speed, probably just about identical.
Let's watch down to the hairpin. Might get a little bit of break up on the signal there, just to see if he's still going down to first, and he's got to make this double shift.
I mean, that's about as quick as you'd have on a road car with a pedal shift gear change. But of course, in a race car, you're having to change 2 gears, as second gear is an operative.
Well, he's dealt with it extremely well, has Neel Jani, and although he might not be able to absolutely wrap up the championship, he virtually has. He'll only need a point or two when they get to Brands Hatch to make sure of it, and that will be a comfortable position to be in. Okay, it would have been nice from their point of view for Max Welty to sort it out here today, but I think in many ways they'll also enjoy the fact that it'll all come down to the final event. He's just got to keep it going here in the remaining 4 laps and just get the finish. Remember, the Vote Switzerland, it says on that car, it also says Vote Portugal on the car running in second. It's all about the fans voting for their favourite nation at A1GP.com.
Excuse me, officer, somebody's been speeding on the racetrack. It's Canada, 135.177, so they now will probably, without any challenge, 4 laps to go, get that point for the fastest race lap.
Good stuff, and that was good strategy by Canada, worth going for the point. They held him out late, put a new set of tyres on. There is Rob Wickens, just taking that fastest lap, 35.177. How does that compare with fastest lap earlier on in the sprint race? I think it's a very favourable comparison, isn't it?
It is indeed. I'm just trying to look down at 35.4. So in fact, as the fuel load is lightened, but also as the racetrack has picked up grip, more rubber going down, and probably comparable fuel loads now to how they ran much of the sprint race. But that new set of tyres and the extra grip on the racetrack has given Canada, Rob Wickens, an opportunity to score 1 point. They're only in 20th place, but at least it's the equivalent of finishing in 10th place.
Now, spare a thought for all these guys. They've been driving their heart out for the entire race distance. There haven't been many changes of position. Pit stops have been crucial, but they've been in each other's wheel tracks. The concentration's been absolutely massive. These guys have been racing just as hard as the guys up front, but France currently running 8th, Great Britain in 9th and Germany 10th, so they are going to be the last point scorers in this race. Bit of a surprise to see those 3 nations not fighting up front. They're fighting over the last 2 points.
Indeed, I think the surprise is not so much France, because Franck Montagny first time in the car and really coming to terms with this discipline, but for Great Britain, a car that's been wayward pretty much through the race, and Germany in a car that has been a winning car in this series. So these 2 nations have suddenly lost pace somewhere when they've come here to Shanghai.
Yeah, it's been a peculiar one, and they're just going to have to write this one off to experience and look forward to Brands Hatch. And of course, Robbie Kerr, we know he will be in the British car at Brands, and he is a Brands Hatch maestro. He took victory there last year, and he would love to come back strongly at the end of the season and still try and take that 3rd place from France in the points. That means a lot to the British team. There is seat holder Tony Clement, and they might not have proved to be their best weekend, but what they can now do is look forward to the Brands.
Yeah, and I think what will be in the most important element for Great Britain is that Robbie Kerr is in the car for the 2nd consecutive weekend, and it's always difficult. You take an incumbent driver out, you switch around. I mean, Ollie Jarvis has done a stunning job for Great Britain, but Robbie Kerr got back in. He was slightly in the back foot. The car didn't appear to work. The team maybe suggesting that he was over-driving the car. We did see a lot of work from Robbie behind the wheel. The wheel was a blur half the time on some of the twistier parts of the circuit. But going back to home ground, all that momentum that he will have at Brands Hatch, and loving that circuit almost like a brother, it's surely going to be enough to get GBR where they would like to be for their home race.
Oh, they'll be up there, I'm sure. They'll be somewhere near the front, but it's so competitive in A1GP at the moment, there is no way to predict who might win. Who, for example, would have predicted with 2 laps to go that the United States would be leading this race from Portugal and Ireland? None of the regular front runners up there, and potential for a new winner in the terms of the United States.
But it all has happened as a consequence of getting onto the front row of the grid in qualifying for the feature race, having done all the homework. Then the rest was somewhat fortuitously offered up to him, but he did get the jump at the start. He did take the lead of the race. He controlled the race. It was only when Switzerland had that problem with the 2nd gear that in effect the race was not gifted This has been a great drive from Jonathan Summerton and a great job by USA. Nevertheless, it was that great start based on a great qualifying.
Absolutely right, and Jonathan Summerton's only got a little way to go on to his final lap. There is Portugal running in second place. Here comes Jonathan Summerton, he comes across the line, he will be going on to the last lap of the feature race, and it looks like we're going to see a win for a 16th nation in A1GP. Is it going to be the case for Jonathan Summerton? Let's watch him around this final lap. He can afford to just back off a little bit, but he's still pushing quite hard by the looks of things.
Well, the thing that a driver should never do is consciously slow down. All you might do is just drop your RPM and gear changes. What you do not want to lose is the rhythm. If you start letting the rhythm go, then everything will go as well. So just keep the concentration, keep the rhythm, back off on the RPM.
Team Ireland's Adam Carroll, what a resurgence in form. Brilliant to see. Ireland winning last time out in Mexico and on for another podium here. And Portugal, their best weekend in A1GP probably ever, to have 2 podium finishes. I'm not sure that Portugal's ever managed to achieve that before, and it's all thanks to Filipe Albuquerque. But here's the man up front at the moment. It's Jonathan Summerton. We've seen lots of drivers come through Team USA, the likes of Buddy Rice and Charlie Kimball have been a part of the team this year. Buddy Rice started the season at Zandvoort and in the Czech Republic. Charlie was part of the rookie driver setup on Friday mornings, but since that round in Malaysia, Jonathan Summerton has had the consistency in the car.
Well, we discovered him, I think, first time last year in Mexico, and he was a real revelation for the Team USA team. They didn't really have a driver of this, well, it's almost inexperienced, but it was just sheer ability and brilliance, and he's just built on that. And here we come up to the final turn, and what a great day for Jonathan Summerton.
Here comes Jonathan Summerton to take the first ever win for the United States in A1GP. What a fantastic result for him. He's going to be celebrating his 20th birthday in just a few days' time, and it's going to be an even bigger celebration now. Portugal comes across the line in second. Filipe Albuquerque with Portugal's best ever total weekend with 2 podiums. Ireland across the line in third to back up victory in Mexico last time. And New Zealand finishes fourth, and they keep the championship alive, going to the final round at Brands Hatch. Neel Jani, a superb drive to finish fifth. That guy's a hero. He drove without a second gear and he still finished fifth. Malaysia will come home in sixth. India in 7th place, and they're in the points again. France take 8th, Great Britain 9th, Germany 10th. The final point therefore going to last season's championship winners. Michael Ammermüller finishing in 10th place. 11th I think is going to be the Czech Republic ahead of Italy. Brazil will come home in 13th, Australia 14th, China 15th, South Africa in 16th place. We had no safety car periods throughout the entire race. Absolutely clean. I'm not sure we had even a yellow flag. And winner, no doubt about it, Team USA. Let's listen in to some radio.
Johnny boy! Yeah! You're the man!
You're the man, absolutely. Team USA have done it. Jonathan Summerton has done it. Seat holder Rick Leidinger not here this weekend, but I tell you what, he is going to be so pleased with that result. In from the start of A1GP, and they've changed the way they've done things. They've moved around a little bit in terms of how they've run the car, but there's been no doubt for people watching that Jonathan Summerton is the real deal. He's got tremendous amount of ability. Last year he did 4 events in A1GP. He had that 2nd place finish in Mexico. This year he's been in since Malaysia, as I say, and they've been a pretty consistent run of results that he's had, but now he's backed it up with the big one, the victory here in China. And interestingly enough, this Shanghai circuit maintains its record of never seeing 2 of the same winners on the same day. We've had different winners in each individual race held here in Shanghai. Malaysia and the Czech Republic in season 1, Great Britain and New Zealand in season 2, and now Switzerland and the United States in season 3. So whatever it is about the circuit, I don't know, but it seems to throw up different results, different winners, and there we are. Let's check that result. It's USA, the winner from Portugal and Ireland, with New Zealand keeping the series alive, beating Switzerland across the line. Malaysia up in 6th, then India and France. Great Britain and Germany battled over those final points ahead of the Czech Republic and Team Italy's Edoardo Piscopo. 13th place from Brazil ahead of Australia and China, then South Africa, Pakistan, the Netherlands and Indonesia. Rob Wickens only finished down in 20th, but he didn't pick up the point for fastest lap. 21st was Mexico, and 22nd, they all finished, was Team Lebanon. Well, this is going to be a mighty celebration. I wonder how that hand of his is feeling. He doesn't care. The adrenaline buzz has been so strong that I shouldn't think he's even noticed his hand is sore after that incident with New Zealand. But there are the boys ready to congratulate him. And, well, that is very, very well deserved. One has to say, these guys have worked so hard this year that they've worked their way back up towards the top of the order. When he came into Malaysia, qualified 11th from 13th, then in Shanghai in China, he was 11th on the grid, then 7th, got a point for 10th position in the feature race there. Filipe Albuquerque also picking up tremendous reception from the Portuguese team, because he has driven superbly all day, with 3rd position in the sprint race, 2nd position now in the feature race. And there's our final podium finisher marching off to the weigh scales there, just to be checked at the end of the race. That is Adam Carroll. And how much has their campaign improved over the last 2 races, Team Ireland. If we look at the points, there you are. The gap now, 29 points, in fact, the gap between Switzerland and New Zealand. And going into the Brands Hatch event, there are 32 points available, so it's still on. France in 3rd place, and they've managed to maintain a fairly useful advantage of 12 over Great Britain. South Africa in 5th place, ahead of Germany. Ireland have now popped up to 7th, so that's a gain for Ireland over the Netherlands, who have dropped to 8th, I'm afraid. They've had a horrible weekend. But 9th place, not far behind them, is Team Canada. Then there is a bit of a bigger gap, but 10th now is Portugal. That's pushed China out of the top 10. So Frankie Cheng's had a tough weekend, and it's pushed China out of the top 10 in the points. They won't like that. They'll be fighting back when they go to Brands. Brazil, India, Malaysia, Mexico, Australia, and the Czech Republic complete the points there. And Jonathan Summerton getting a lot of congratulations on his well-deserved first victory. And there's Neel explaining how, well, I didn't have a second gear, so I had a bit of a hard time out there today. And when the other guys get to realise that, they'll think, well, that was a pretty impressive achievement then, to drive as well as you did. Well, Jonathan Summerton takes the checkered flag. The Stars and Stripes takes the checkered for the first time in A1GP history. And there were the scenes on the pit wall as it happened. Double punch of the air for Jonathan Summerton. It all looked pretty easy, and when it all goes your way, sometimes winning races really can be easy. That was the way it went today. Perfect in the pit stops. Those guys did him proud. All that pit stop practice certainly worked for Team USA here today. He had a great run into the first corner. Switzerland didn't want to fight it, and he took full advantage of that as well. So the championship might not be fully settled, but Switzerland's drive from Neel was tremendous. Let's hear from him.
Neel, we heard some of the team radio. We could hear that you had a problem with second gear. How difficult was that race?
Oh, definitely was difficult, because the downshifting didn't work really well, 3rd and 2nd gear. Second, I lost them totally, and 3rd sometimes worked, sometimes not. So I just tried to survive. Unfortunately, we had again a bad pit stop, which put me behind New Zealand, and that was it with the title win before Brands Hatch. But well, I think we just need to work on our pit stops, as it looks like.
Now, obviously, you learned a way of driving around it. We could hear again your engineer James Robinson saying, "Come on, dude, learn how to drive around it." How did you manage that?
I don't know. I just had to play with the clutch and the gears and lifting off the throttle, and in the end it worked quite well. I managed 36.4 or 5 about my pace, but I was just scared the gearbox would blow up every moment, because when I downshifted for the hairpin, it just was a big bang. I locked the rear wheels every time. I was a little bit scared.
Good job, well done, Neel.
Oh well, but made the maximum out of it.
And that's all you can do, given the situation you're in. That's what you've got to do in racing. Make the most of what you have, and I have to say, I think Neel did that today, but so did Jonathan Summerton. He had a car that was working, he made the most of it, and he's come through to take victory for the United States. Portugal's gap in the end, 9.7 seconds, so they didn't quite have the same pace, and Summerton was able to just ease away. Even that last lap, amazingly, was quicker than Portugal's final lap. New Zealand put in a very quick lap just on the last lap themselves, but ended up finishing 4th. There he is then, he's managed to find a flag from somewhere. And the Stars and Stripes, for the first time in A1, graced the top step of the podium. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. And we couldn't be more pleased with Jonathan Summerton. He deserves it. Filipe Albuquerque, look at that. Rousing reception from the Portuguese crew. Big, big smile. He's had a tremendous day, hasn't he? 3rd in one race, 2nd in the other. And Adam Carroll steps up to take 3rd place. They are back on regular podium finishing form. Shanghai's been pretty good to them in the past. Richard Lyons was 5th here last year. They've been through a bit of a lull after Adam's debut gave him a podium finish. He hasn't been on the podium until that win last time out in Mexico, but this time he's managed to back it up here today with that solid podium finish in the feature race. So they'll be getting used to this feeling, and there is Adam. He'll be delighted with that. Niall Quinn, the rookie driver here in support, did another good job on Friday morning, and the bronze medal being awarded to Adam Carroll in recognition of a strong 3rd place. Good work from the pit crew again today, and that certainly helped him on his way. Started in 4th place on the grid, was able to take advantage, if you like, of the problems for Team Switzerland, and there's the crew congratulating him. Silver medal, and 2nd place then goes to Filipe Albuquerque. It matches Portugal's best ever finish in A1GP. Alvaro Perez, that 2nd place finish that they had in Australia way back in season 1. It's an awful lot of races since they last achieved a podium finish, but it's 2 in 1 day here today. Well, he had the podium in Durban, of course, but since they had a 2nd place, it's a long time. And maybe the win isn't out of the question. I'm not sure he's ever raced at Brands though, Filipe Albuquerque, so we'll have to see how he develops and how he attacks that circuit. But the gold medal, no doubt about it really, from the early stages of that race, as long as they didn't have a problem and as long as the pit stops went well, it goes to Jonathan Summerton and Team USA. There's the trophy. Guys down there, big smiles across their faces. Let's hear the national anthem. The American anthem plays out, and the gold medal goes to Team USA. We might be hearing that a little bit more later in the year when the Olympics take place in Beijing, but it's the very first time it's happened in A1GP. And well, I wonder what that means for the remainder, the last couple of races of the season. Jonathan Summerton has raced in the UK. He knows the Brands Hatch circuit. He'll be looking forward to that to see whether he can't back up the victory here with another one. But right now, all he's going to concentrate on is celebrating this achievement. The stars and stripes proudly displayed for Jonathan Summerton.
So thank you, Shanghai. Thank you, China. Thank you, three drivers.
Magic. And those guys will be having their pictures taken for the press, the winning photographs to be beamed around the world, and then of course they'll be heading down to the Pangaea hospitality area fairly soon, right down at the other end of the pits for the interviews to take place. It'll be a little while before we get to hear from them, but we'll be hearing what they have to say about that performance and that great result for Team USA, Portugal and for Team Ireland as well. Just remember that New Zealand did finish in 4th place, keeping the series alive by doing so, and making sure that everybody's going to have to see what happens at Brands Hatch to see the outcome. Switzerland in 5th, Malaysia up there in 6th place, so 2 good results here today from Team Malaysia. At last, former winners here in Shanghai, and now they've got 2 point scoring finishes. Let's take a look at the points then. Switzerland on 150 points, 29 points ahead of New Zealand. Now remember, there are 32 points available in the final round at Brands Hatch, with 16 points possible for each race. So it's still on for New Zealand, but they would need to see a bit of a disaster for Switzerland. France holding on to 3rd, a reasonable margin over Great Britain, but of course we know how fast Great Britain should be at Brands Hatch. there is every opportunity they can still take third. South Africa in a pretty solid fifth, although behind them they've got Germany, who could still spring a surprise or two. And look, Ireland actually are right there tied with Germany thanks to that third place. Hadn't realised Ireland had got that close, but they are, and they're ahead of the Netherlands as well. Canada in 9th place, and the other big difference there is that Portugal have squeezed China out of the top 10, and the USA actually only 2 points behind China themselves. There's a chance for the United States to sneak into the top 10 themselves. Brazil in 13th place ahead of India, and then Malaysia, who have really added to their score. They might be way down in 15th, but they've had a good day here today. Mexico in 16th, those points scored earlier on in the season. Australia 17th, then the